On July the 2nd of 2024, the Xbox Live servers went down, taking many games with them, one of these being Minecraft. This mass outage caused mass outrage because of the fact that it didn't just include the multiplayer servers or some way of connecting with your friends, but instead the entire game was down. Indeed, every single time the Xbox Live services are unavailable, so too is Minecraft. And this is ridiculous because Minecraft is a single-player game. I don't just mean that in terms of how it started. Cave Game was of course just single player. I don't just mean that in terms of how people consumed content from the game in the original sense, but I also mean because of the fact that, fundamentally speaking, after 12 years of playing, I can tell you that although you can play Minecraft in multiplayer, it is much better in single player, and let me prove to you why. Okay, I'll admit, my premise sounds as far-fetched as this horse's logic, but one of my favorite ways to play Minecraft in single player is to speedrun, so let me explain the history as fast as possible, because Minecraft launched as a single-player game. Cave Game and all of its predecessors were just one player. Minecraft then became successful on YouTube as a single-player game through Let's Plays, which were exclusively in single player, because multiplayer was fairly painful until quite recently. Console Edition was the first one to make multiplayer seamless with single player, and although Java has always had servers, it was only with the Better Together update that Bedrock allowed all platforms to just play with each other with no hassles whatsoever. This is when the perception of it as a multiplayer game really kicked in, and that's when this cycle began. Here it is, the cycle of Minecraft, the inevitable experience people have when playing this game, because Minecraft might have been around for 15 years now, but it's really hit a new wave of popularity during the last 5 or 6, partially due to the pandemic you might say, because hanging out with friends is a human need. I don't need to explain that, but sometimes you need a group activity to keep the hangout structured, right? This is what has led to the success of games like Jackbox, Among Us, or Death to AI. Have some fun in that last one in particular, but in the long haul, this is where Minecraft is successful too, as people can set up a Minecraft server and then invite their friends in to enjoy it. This means that you can actually play asynchronously, which is really great sometimes. However, for that multiplayer is fun hangout, it doesn't necessarily work, because instead what you get is a multiplayer game where sometimes there's people and sometimes there's not. This very rarely impacts other multiplayer and party games, and it leads to this cycle where you get into Minecraft because you're so excited about something, you invite your friends to play, and all of them go, yeah, I'd really love to jump on this too. You play with those friends on your little server, and then your friends stop playing, your world gets a little sad, you play yourself for a little bit though because you still love Minecraft even if they don't, but eventually this gets you bored, you stop playing Minecraft, and you have to wait until you want to play Minecraft again, at which point inevitably your friends will jump on board, and you get the point. It goes over and over and over, and for as long as I've been making Minecraft videos, I've noticed there is a type of player who falls perfectly into this camp. There is a type of person who feels like they're getting back into the game, but then actually there's something that just goes missing in their world after a small bit. Could you blame this on short attention spans and make a point about iPad babies, or you know, you could make a point like that, but I think it would be much more salient to say, actually, what if the flaw in this is how you're playing Minecraft? Not just that you're playing multiplayer, but that you're actually playing a weird hybrid of multiplayer and single player that takes the worst of both worlds. When you're playing a world with all of your friends, it can be fun to see all of that progress slowly build up. This is why all sorts of SMPs can be popular on YouTube, but ultimately, if people continuously drop out, it takes away some of the energy from that world, and playing on a world that used to have people and now doesn't makes it feel like a ghost town, and in the sad way, not the happy way. It is inevitable if you have one long-term world, and that world is multiplayer with people who are getting out of the game, that you're going to feel a little strangely, and that is why I think multiplayer games work, and Minecraft can work as a multiplayer game, but in the long run, even the most successful of multiplayer servers have to say, yeah, but we're giving up on this every 6 months to a year or so, which is a problem if you enjoy the part of Minecraft that is about accomplishments and long-term survival, and that is why, for this video, I wanted to do an experiment where I looked at 2 separate worlds, both of which had survived 1,000 days, that is 170 real-world hours minimum, that's assuming you sleep perfectly every night. It's closer to 300 hours if you don't, and I wanted to compare 2 1,000-day-old Minecraft worlds, one which was played by a single person, and one which was played by a whole group of people, and here's what the 2 worlds look like. So this first world is called America, and it is exactly 1,000 days old, and honestly, I knew I had to check it out the moment I saw one of these cobblestone pillars, because this is what you get when you have more or less deliberate griefing. It is so easy to create one of these if you feel like being a menace, and clearly this world is filled with people who feel exactly like that. So it's clearly an anarchy server, and let's see what people have done in 1,000 days of this. Actually getting around anywhere on an anarchy server when you spawn in the air like this is actually surprisingly hard. You need to be somewhat good at parkour just to work your way around the ladders that people built. I don't know why there are so many boats down there, and I'm just not going to ask. Instead, I'm going to try and get some distance going to see the first real build on this world. Oh no, okay, let's do this. I don't think I'm going to make any of these gaps by myself, so I'm going to fall onto these bamboo instead. No! Okay, I have found precisely one interesting build, and it's these two towers next to each other with some weird faces being made on the sides. Okay, is that the whole server that's actually built? Yeah, this place is like a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and, you know, maybe there's some great political analogy they're trying to make there, but all I can say is, what the heck did I just join? I don't even know. Yeah, at some point, it honestly becomes a server-wide destruction project where the only things you can see are the remnants of what might have been someone's house or maybe a village, and then the occasional dig-throughs to go to somewhere else that is also destroyed entirely. This is an example of what you can do with 1,000 days if you want to achieve basically nothing, because everyone is so worried about being grief, they've built everything so far from spawn, if at all, that you basically have a world that looks much worse than it did on day one. But if you want to spend your week a bit more productively, then maybe you could do it like this. And now for a very different way to spend 1,000 days, let's go into round 2. So, as you can see, there's a lovely sign with some glowstone and some calcite saying the base is this way, but also, oh God, where did you come from? But also, there is a book here which says I should sign it for them, and so after I die, I'm going to do precisely that. Toy Cat was here before being murdered. Okay. That's gonna seem really prophetic. Did you know you can write book titles after you're dead? It's gonna seem oddly prophetic if I do end up being murdered in real life, which I really hope I don't. And also, did you know you can finish a book... Oh, you can't finish a book while you're dead. This is not what the person hosting the world wants, but thank you for dropping it. I'm very glad to see that this is my book, and it's not written in there. So I'm just gonna have to be real quick about this one. Toy Cat was here before being murdered. Yeah, there we go, sad. This is my favorite Minecraft bug. I cannot believe it happens. I have made it to what I have to assume is the Minecraft base, and honestly, it's looking pretty cool. They are using a lot of different blocks, but I love this use of mangrove and deep slate together. You know, I have my own feelings about how, like, deep slate blends of tough blends of... You know, this is something a lot of people do enjoy. I think people think this is beautiful, but I think that that top kind of color difference is the thing that really sets this apart, and that really makes this beautiful. Oh, yeah, nice house. Hope I don't die walking into it. Oh, it just looks so good on the inside too. These exposed mangrove, they're stripped columns. It just looks so beautiful. I am going to have to break a window to get out, but that's fine. As you can see, this is a much different approach to Minecraft, being very structured, and by working with yourself, you can ensure that there is going to be no griefing, something which is very wonderful. I'm sure they would agree. Look at this, it's a little gnome guarding a sugarcane farm. Why does that need to be there? The answer is it clearly doesn't, but it's amazing that it does regardless. It's cool that you can go for such a medieval theme on one side of your castle, then go for a weird kraken/pirate sort of thing on this side, and then something much more Greek looking on that side, and then say, you know what though, all of these things are great, but the one thing that matters more than any of that to me is having a giant photo of my dog in the sky. And you can do this all in different parts of your world because you're in charge of the organization. If you want to have rules about what time period you're building in, you can go with them. If instead you just want to build a lovely farmhouse, you can just make that too. And that is the beautiful thing about this. Actually not, that dog is the beautiful thing about this. Love this world. Okay, I'll admit, there's a huge difference in these two worlds, in part due to the fact that it's multiplayer and single player, but also due to the fact that the multiplayer server clearly has next to no rules, and some people who love to push the bounds of what that means, and that might make it seem like an unfair comparison, but actually, I think that proves the point. You would never do this to your solo Minecraft world, or at least you wouldn't spend 1,000 days doing it, because it just wouldn't be very fun. However, when a bunch of other people have spent hundreds of days already, and they have lovely things games near the spawn, doing something like this has a layer of satisfaction, a layer of destruction, which you can just enjoy, and ultimately if everyone else on the server does too, then that's great. If they don't, then maybe you're getting into the fundamental flaw of why human beings find it hard to live together, but I think I would rather talk about not just the idea that anarchy is not always the way to play over 1,000 days, these people might have enjoyed it, but instead I want to talk about the fact that if you were playing solo, you would have never considered doing this. Solo worlds are ones where you make the rules and you get to follow them. As you change those rules, you are fundamentally changing how your world works, but it happens seamlessly every play session, whereas a multiplayer server is one where you need to have fairly explicit rules. That often starts with the simple etiquette, things like make sure you patch up the creeper holes when one explodes, and make sure you replant the crops when you harvest them. They are the rules which make a Minecraft server better, but they can start to escalate very quickly, and soon there's a dedicated server currency and a dedicated marketplace, and there's a tax you've got to pay to maintain the infrastructure for all of that. And so ultimately you get a set of rules inside the game, which if aren't followed end up looking like this. And then you have the more fundamental rules, whether explicit or implicit, about how often you're going to interact on this server. The whole point of playing Minecraft together is to play Minecraft together, and so you need to work out, like, how often are you going to be on? Eventually, this can start to fracture, and when it does, it can lead to a situation, like with many games, which are both single player and multiplayer, where if one person is playing the game all of the time, it's not just that they're not getting a multiplayer experience, but when their friends jump back on, they feel like they've missed something, and this will ultimately lead them to play another Minecraft world or another game altogether. Multiplayer is fun, and it can be fun, but it requires a lot of work to actually keep a single world going, which is always where the fundamental flaw starts to appear. And that is why I don't like multiplayer. It's a lot of working with other people to play a game which isn't necessarily perfectly suited to it. Although, with that said, I think I'm a hypocrite for saying that. No, I don't mean in the way that every single piece of internet content is in some way hypocritical. I mean every single social media rewards you not for the truest content, but instead for the most engaging content, which means you have to post in some ways the most inflammatory stuff imaginable because your rewards have nothing to do with how truthful you decide to be. And so indeed, for this video, I think the title is in some way a direct lie. Minecraft obviously has a multiplayer mode because that's what we're talking about in these videos. Minecraft itself goes through a great deal to promote this multiplayer mode in their own trailers, and even my own argument here is really Minecraft is a single player game primarily, but I decided to leave that word out of the title because I think it makes the point a lot easier to understand, and honestly I think there's going to be a few people who jump on it as like, wow, that can't actually be true, and hopefully who learn through watching this video what my actual point is. So obviously you could argue I'm a hypocrite that way, but also I'm a hypocrite because of the fact that even though I say Minecraft is a single player game, whether primarily or not, I also love to play it in multiplayer. Not in the sense that we talk about in this video, and that most people mean when they say multiplayer Minecraft, but I love battle minigames. This was created by 4J Studios because of the fact that you could not have any direct server connectivity on consoles. Even if you could, the game was fundamentally programmed different. They made their own minigames, and the most famous was Battle. This was a lot of fun, and I played this, but mostly not with friends, but instead against strangers and subscribers. And this was the beauty of battle minigames. You didn't need to have friends, and ultimately you could treat the other players like they were NPCs. It's one of my favorite things to do. I have also created my own minigames. It's been a good decade since the last one of those now, but I've made my own minigames back when there was no way to do that as well, and I even invited people to my 2012 Let's Play World, specifically because everyone on Minecraft console spawns with a map, and I wanted theirs. I'm starting to sound a bit like a psychopath, I guess. Funnily enough, there are actually reasons to do this in 2024 though, and this is something I wanted to talk about in this video because obviously the biggest counterpoint to my argument is the fact that there are many features which are multiplayer only in Minecraft, or at the very least are features that only make sense in multiplayer, and so here is a fun tangent for the video. Which features are those? Which features are only really useful in a multiplayer server? Well, I think there are only really 3 that you can actually name, and maybe a 4th if you really come down to it, because I think the Potion of Poison is the most obvious example. Why would you brew this in a single player world? There is no need to drink poison yourself. Even if you really wanted to deal damage to yourself, you'd probably just drink a harming potion, poison, and even then there are very few circumstances where you need to be damaged, and so drinking a poison potion makes no sense. And I think you can argue a similar thing is true for arrows that give weird buffs. You would never make an arrow of leaping 2 because sure, you can technically give it to yourself if you really try hard and you don't have a ceiling above you, but why would you ever give yourself night vision via an arrow? The only thing I can think of is that you want a really short duration off that night vision effect, but even then it doesn't make any sense because if you really wanted that, then you could just use a splash potion and have it not land near you, and you wouldn't have to take this damage. And so I think that these arrows are also worthless in single player, and because you're not going to be shooting a llama or a cow with them, or a horse indeed, and so really they're multiplayer only features for the most part. There are some tipped arrows which are great in single player, but these two certainly aren't versions of them. So after that, I would say the goat horn is the only other obvious example, because this is designed to yell out to other players, but in a single player world, I'm yelling at no one. I'm really just yelling the soundness horn at myself, and I don't think that anyone ever seeks these in a single player world in the same way you do for multiplayer. Although, with that said, I think the fourth item is one that's a bit more marginal, so tell me if you think this counts. I went through every single item in Minecraft trying to find ones which are useless in single player and really only have a use in multiplayer, and the poisonous potato is one I would put in this category because the only reason you can conceive for the poison potato existing is to feed it to a friend and have to try to trick that friend into maybe eating some poison, but I don't think it's a very good method, if I'm being totally honest, mostly because of the fact that it says poisonous potato. You have to have a very dumb friend to have them fall for it, and also you have to be quite mean-spirited to make your dumb friends fall for that, so those are the only features that are actually multiplayer only. There are some that feel multiplayer only, like banners, or signs, or armor trims, but all of these features I think you could fairly point out are useful in single player too. I like collecting armor trims in single player. I don't use the silence trim necessarily in the same way I would otherwise, but collecting all of the armor trims is a great thing to do, single player or multiplayer. Writing signs is wonderful. You can use it to write your name if you want to. You can use a book for a similar purpose. You might think this is multiplayer only, but I have a to-do list in my Let's Play world. I feel like basically every feature that feels like it's single player only. The spyglass is an example of a feature that really isn't that useful in single player, but it's just as not useful in multiplayer as well. Every single item that you can think of that is a multiplayer useful item has some use in single player that is sometimes better. The best example I can think of that is marginal is the redstone stuff. Like, you wouldn't ever make a secret door to your base in a single player world, except, just kidding, yes you would. Minecraft is one of those games where basically... I think that's a good transition into our final point of today, because here's the deal. Minecraft is a game where you can do anything you want in single player or in multiplayer if you really want, and that includes using basically any multiplayer feature and creating some lore into them, which many people do choose. So with that said, now it's worth asking, if we've proven that Minecraft is a single player game that just happens to have a multiplayer game mode, if Minecraft is primarily a single player game that you can just choose to play with friends, what should Minecraft actually do with that knowledge? What does this actually change about what Mojang should do? And I do think a few things. I also think this multiplayer server is a monstrosity because someone decided to build a skyscraper out of gravel. I mean, just look at this monstrosity right here. It's one of the most ridiculous things ever. Why? I have so many questions about why someone put the time to do this, and this is why you shouldn't play multiplayer Minecraft. There'd be some serial killers out there. Also, you can't even just get yourself out of one of these. You try to break it, but you realize there's 200 gravel blocks above you. But speaking of things that are above you, there are decisions above this video that need to be made by Mojang. Admitting that there is a problem is very easy, but working out what you should actually do about it is hard, but that's why I have 3 easy solutions that Minecraft can apply to what they're doing to hopefully appreciate and understand the game a little better. The first of these is offline mode. I think it goes without saying, but the internet going down should not stop you playing Minecraft. That probably goes without saying, but the easiest counterpoint is that they can't do this because the reason that they need to have online access is for authentication servers. In other words, they need to confirm that you actually own Minecraft, and so they need to have these authentication servers, but when the servers are down, they can't verify, and so they just assume you don't have Minecraft. If they did the inverse, if they made it possible to go offline, then they would of course be facilitating piracy, because any pirated copy of the game could just say, oh, we're offline, don't worry about checking if we own the game, and boom, they'd be able to get in. But I think ultimately something that has been proven time and time again is that good games are worth paying for. Some people will always pirate anything, but that doesn't mean you should make paid customers go through more effort, and I think the best example of this is the marketplace. There are all sorts of pieces of content on Java that are free that have the exact same piece of content on Bedrock where it's paid, and there are thousands or sometimes tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people willing to fork over a bit of money because they like the product. Minecraft is one of the most liked products of all time, and you can say there's going to be the tiniest dent in sales from piracy, but I highly doubt that's true, and so that's why offline mode should be a must. I mean, Minecraft's basically a free-to-play game now anyway. It's free through Games Pass. It's basically nothing on phones. Just say that you can go offline, even if you have to be online to do that, and people will be a lot happier. Speaking of being a lot happier, compensation is something that I think they should easily be considering, if only for the sake of incentives. Right now, Minecraft live servers just go offline a couple times a year, in the case of 2024, and what do? Well, we just don't play Minecraft, at least on the Java edition, and a lot of people on the Bedrock edition, although I've always been able to play Minecraft Bedrock during outages, just not Java, I think that there should be compensation for affected players. I think that you should be able to confirm, were people playing between this time, and if they weren't able to access their copy of the game that they legally own, I think that Minecraft, if not out of a legal sense or a moral sense, should be doing so out of a business sense, because they should be trying to assure you that if you actually buy the game and you don't pirate it, you're going to be getting a good service, and that includes being able to play the game when you want, because ultimately there are pirated Minecraft copies out there that don't have to worry about authenticating, and so you shouldn't be giving them a better service than your own customers. Compensation is something Minecraft did great with the Realms outage, but I also think they should be doing it for anyone who just owns the game, even if it's something small like giving away some free coins here or there, even if it's something small like giving people a free few days of Realms or whatever it may be. Try to compensate people so that one, you make people feel better and like their whole, and also two, so that ideally you have an incentive against the servers going down, as there hopefully already is one, but so that people know that you're interested too. And the third thing that I think Minecraft can do is kind of more development oriented. I think that although this is something most of the team probably understands right now, I think it should be a given that sure, Minecraft is going to be played multiplayer sometimes, but with updates like the Tricky Trials, I think that they made a decent attempt, although maybe could have done even better, at understanding that lots of people are going to experience this content in single player. And so an example of this that is kind of annoying is to get the most trial keys from a so the number of trial keys you get is based on how many players are around it, so you need to have lots of players around a trial spawner or an ominous spawner to get the most keys from it. However, the number of vaults inside of a trial chamber is fixed. This means that you're going to have a very different experience, and mechanics like that shouldn't be true. It shouldn't be much harder to open all of the vaults in a trial chamber in single player, or conversely, much easier to do it in multiplayer. Experiences like that should be perfectly balanced from single player to multiplayer. A good example of how they've done this is with the vaults. Vaults, ironically enough, even though the trial spawners and the way keys work and the placement of the vaults has some issues, the fact that there is a vault means that now you can go into a structure and then later someone in multiplayer can do it, and it's great for that. But they should have similar things to balance things that are built around multiplayer for single player, in my opinion. I think that there should be fun uses for items like the goat horn that actually affect single players, because unlike every other item in the game, they can't be built around lore. And even though I know there's a whole page in the Minecraft design book about how they can't make poison potatoes useless, I feel like that's another case for an item where it's like, what are you meant to do in single player? Give us a use. Let us compost them at least. Give us that tiny fraction of a use, and the community will turn it into something great. But there needs to be that tiny iota, there needs to be that thing that you can zoom in on the spyglass, because otherwise people aren't going to be able to do it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's somewhere between, like a fun kind of like audio video we used to do, and somewhere between like a video essay of today. If you enjoyed it, then please do share it, or whatever you do. People do call to actions at the end of their videos, so I'm going to use mine to say, did you know the Big Salmon plush is out right now? I have mine over here, actually. Oh, look what a good Big Salmon plush he is. I won't have it until Christmas, that's for sure, though, because did you know, if you buy the Big Salmon plush, which is now available, it will, in fact, be able to get to you by Christmas. That is why we are launching it in September. It's a little earlier in the year than I would have otherwise hoped, but the reason we're doing it is because I want you to be able to enjoy this. It's a great gift for yourself, it's a great gift for someone you care about, and if you want to get ahead of your Christmas shopping, get yourself the Big Salmon Toy Cat plush, available right now for a limited time only, and then never again. Okay, thank you for watching. Goodbye.